brands reaching out to them saying, can you record this video and say that this product cured your acne?
Oh,
and
yes.
they're like, but it hasn't. It's a lie.
It's kind of like dating. You know, you got to kiss a lot of frogs.
And Ryan L wrote back saying, cry me a river.
If you're a freelancer, you should feel slightly uncomfortable for the amount that you're asking, and that means you're in the right spot.
If I was coming to you as a brand, what would be the process?
First of all, I'd talk about why.
This is the Lucky Boy Agency podcast, where we chat with creatives about navigating the highs and lows of the creative industry. We learn about their careers and what they've learned along the way. My name is Carly Pearson. I'm the agency director of Lucky Boy Agency. And today I have here with me Claudia Augie, who has a very impressive career in the social media and digital marketing space.
Is Claudia Augie. People are really aware of what they're putting on themselves and their family's skin.
With over 10 years of experience working with some of Australia's top brands such as Sukin Skincare, AMPR Group, Willow and Blake, Mamma Mia and Nobody Denim in the beauty, fashion and wellness space, Claudia has started Homegrown Creative. She specialises in digital marketing, social media strategy and management, creative direction, content creation and influencer marketing, and has some really great tips and advice to offer those starting out in their careers in the creative industry. Welcome, Claudia. How does it feel to have your bio read to you? It's full on, right?
It's full on. I started getting red. I was like, whoa.
So that's me. That's you, girl.
Me.
Welcome. So nice to have you on.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I wanted to start by asking a little bit about your early career.
Yes.
And asking you about how you got started in the creative industry.
Oh, that is a really good question. I think it goes all the way back to university. I did 1 year of business back in Adelaide, where I'm from, and I was like, oh, this is just not for me. But I always kind of thought I liked marketing or something creative. And I came to Melbourne for the weekend, and a friend of mine was going to an open day at White House, which is a design school here. And I went along and I was like, oh, yes, this is for me. Applications closed like 2 weeks later and they needed a whole year's worth of like portfolio work. And so I went back to Adelaide and just like
went for it,
pulled it out of thin air.
Yeah.
Applied, and like 3 weeks later I was moving to Melbourne.
That's amazing.
To do my degree. So I did a Bachelor of Design and Creative Direction.
Yeah.
I think I'd just turned 20 and I'd never lived out of home or anything like that. And I just kind of moved
20.
onto my friend's couch.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I
just went for it.
Yeah. And how long was your degree?
3 years.
Yeah.
Full time. And then I just started interning like all over town.
Yeah.
Because I was just obsessed with finding out what people were actually doing in the industry.
Yeah. I would love to talk to you more about interning, because I think a lot of people are very worried about, or a lot of people aren't really interested in interning or working for free. But you had a lot of great stuff come from interning, right?
Yeah. And I'm so passionate about telling people to go and intern. I think, especially now with like TikTok and social media, and a lot of people are documenting from like finishing uni to getting a job, and a lot of people are getting amazing jobs, but other people aren't seeing what kind of goes on behind the scenes. And there is nothing better, especially in this industry, than going and trying out different things. Like interning is kind of like an backdoor pass to go and see, do I like PR? Do I like fashion? Do I like beauty? Do I like digital marketing? Do I like content creation? Do I want to be a copywriter? There's so many jobs that you just haven't even heard of yet.
Totally. I think
and you get to go on trial.
I think interning is so good. I did a degree in journalism and PR, and I interned so much.
Yeah,
I interned
nice.
When I was 19, I was interning for Channel 9 and Channel 10, and it was really good. It was like, I think it's also like an intro to the workforce if you've never done anything like that before. Like I was like, you know, going shopping at Q with mum, trying to find a corporate outfit.
Oh, the clothes you were at the beginning, hideous. The shoes I thought that were appropriate, no.
Yeah, and you just learn so
much.
Like you just learn so much from those internships, and I feel like having a good attitude towards interning and doing it as much as you can, it leads to so much. Like I interned for Channel 7 and Channel 10, and I didn't go down that path because I found that I was far too emotional for that job. And also a big thing that you don't think about, I'm like very, very bad motion sickness. And to be a journalist, you have to be able to be in the car and to be on your phone writing the story.
Yeah.
So something that you don't think about, but that was like the
Exactly.
biggest thing. Like I could not do that job because of my motion sickness. And also I'm just very emotional, and we would go and have these conversations with families of people who like their son was like beaten and was in hospital, and I'm too emotional for that. Like that was not the route for me. So then I started interning in PR, and that led to my first job, which has essentially kickstarted me in the industry.
Yeah.
And I was so underqualified for that job, but it was because I was just there every day.
Yeah.
They were like, I guess you can have it because you're literally always here. And that's the best way to get into something, rather than, you know, you could be the best at what you do in the industry, but if they don't know you, then you're not going to get the same chance as someone who's in there every single day. So I think it's definitely worthwhile interning as much as you can. And I know that it's not as easy for people. Like I was in a position where I was still living at home and I was able to, but I think like if you can do it, definitely do it.
Yeah, even if it's just like one day a week or a few hours, because obviously like I think full-time interning probably isn't realistic, but going somewhere that you go, okay, Tuesday, Wednesdays, afternoons are here, or you do one day a week. And the industry is so small that people that I met then I still know now, I still work with now, brands that you're getting experience around. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, and I think like people want to help you when they understand that you're trying your best just to put yourself
giving
forward.
it a go.
Yeah, I think like people, and if you ask lots of questions, Zoe's eating the pot plant. Zoe, my God. I think if you ask lots of questions and you just, I know, she's such a distraction. I think, people just want to help you if you are asking lots of questions. And you can find so many great mentors that way as well. Like I know in my, when I was interning, and especially in the early days of my first jobs, like you are exposed to so many people that can help you and become a mentor in your life too.
Yeah, which is so great. Especially think for women starting out, finding other women that are doing something that you love, or they're a great leader, or they have a skill set, or they can help guide you in your career is just so invaluable.
Yeah.
It's
so you had
good.
A couple of mentors early on?
Yeah, I had a few actually. And I think at the time I didn't really realize how important they were going to be for my career. I worked in a lot of founder-led businesses, which is amazing. And I've also had a lot of strong women that I would report into. And to this day, they're kind of like have shaped me to be who I am in the workplace, not afraid to kind of speak out. I think I was really lucky at the beginning of my career that I had a really strong female manager that empowered me to be like, I know what I'm doing, and I can speak up in meetings, and I can not kind of get pushed to the sideline in the sense of in bigger businesses, you do have to kind of stand up and put yourself forward.
Yeah. Or if you're in a room full of men, like, and you don't feel comfortable having a strong mentor, especially a strong female mentor who you have witnessed speaking up.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Yeah. Even asking for things like, oh, I want a title change, or this is actually where I want to go in my career, or I want a pay rise, or even just having the power when you're interviewing to feel empowered that you can ask questions to like the business, to the person, like why would I want to work for you? This is how much I'm worth. Because I think that's just, so powerful.
Yeah. I can definitely remember, and I agree with what you said about not really knowing the impact that they had in that moment, but more looking back. So we had this amazing woman come and do, when I worked in a PR agency, she came and did like a bit of a stint there. And I really learned a lot from her because we kind of had one type of manager in that business. And she kind of came in and she was very soft and very sweet, but she was also really respected and really strong without being over the top. And she was really, really kind. And I saw the way she led her team from always leading from with positive feedback, rather than just creating an environment of don't make a mistake because you'll get embarrassed or humiliated or told off. It was more from a place of she was really good at managing her team because everyone wanted to do their best for her because she was so kind. And I think she had a very good a very big impact on how my management style is. Like, it doesn't have to be like, you know, so cutthroat, because I think some agencies can be like that. And all it takes is for one person to come in and just shake things up a little bit. So yeah, mentors are definitely really good. I had my first opportunity to someone actually come to me to ask me questions about my career. And I kind of was always thinking, oh gosh, like, I don't think I'm in the position to mentor someone, right?
Yeah.
But we had a really good conversation and I felt like I actually did offer her a lot of value. And that felt really good for me too, to be able to share what I know. So I definitely think, like, you know, the mentor-mentee relationship is really nice for both parties, which you don't really think about.
Totally.
Yeah. So talk to me about what you do at Homegrown.
Okay. So at Homegrown, I do lots of different things. I work with retainer clients and then also project-based clients. And that can be from digital marketing strategy, creating a social strategy for your brand, full social media management, content creation, production, casting for shoots. I also do email marketing so I can set up your campaign, set up your structure, your flows, influencer marketing, UGC, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
My career was really coming into a lot of businesses at a time when it was just one person doing kind of everything in that, like social influencers, events, PR, comms, partnerships. But it's all areas that I really love to do. And so by going freelance, I'm able to kind of help businesses big and small in those different areas. So I'm not kind of trapped in one section, which I think my brain really, really likes.
Yeah. And you get to be creative. You get to pick and choose who you get to work with.
Yeah. And I've been so lucky. One, as like we said before, like that networking has really come into play when you kind of take the leap and you go freelance to see how your network supports you. And word of mouth is huge here.
Totally.
And then I've also just been so lucky to work with almost everyone I work with has been a strong female founder and I am obsessed with it. Like all of these businesses are owned and run by women and they're just out there. They've got kids, they don't have kids, they're working full time, they're working after hours and they're all value-based businesses. Like they're all putting out something that's really they're passionate about and aligns with their personal values. So it's been really cool.
That's amazing. And so you are very passionate about the influencer marketing side of things. That's right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. I think it's so important for brands and businesses, basically everyone. I think, you know, a few years ago, it was kind of this new market and people weren't really sure how to play with it and how to make it work for them. But now they are businesses and advertisements in their own like beautiful, authentic way.
Absolutely.
And so for any kind of business, you can find and then build a relationship with an influencer or a content creator that's not only just about like one post. Like for me, and I say this to all my clients, like if you want to go down the route of doing influencer marketing, take more time to build a strategy of finding the right people to work with because so many businesses just go, okay, we're just going to get the person with the highest following, the highest engagement, you know, maybe their flavor of the month and it'll be one post and that will be it. And then they go, oh, well, I didn't really see success how I wanted it. Or I was looking at, you know, I wanted to make sales and it should have been a brand awareness piece. And so
Totally.
it's like taking it back.
If people are saying, oh, I spent this much money and it actually didn't give me any sales, it's sort of like that's not what the exercise is about.
You need to release control of like your brand guidelines in a sense because this is third party content.
Totally. And
But
you want it to be authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have heard from a lot of influencers or content creators that sometimes they will get sent a 20-page brief for making a 130-second video and it kind of takes away from that.
Yeah, and their audience isn't going to engage.
Yeah.
Like they know their audience best. And if you've found the right person, they're going to represent your brand in the right way. Like you're
So
not going to have to worry about that.
If I was coming to you as a brand and I wanted to talk about having an influencer marketing strategy, what would be the process of actually putting that together?
First of all, I'd talk about why. So why do you want to do it? Because I think a lot of people have goals kind of hidden away. So is it brand awareness? You want more people to know about your product? Is it you want to drive sales? Is it you have something to talk about? So this could be from like a charity partnership. It could be a new product, a new range. It could be a founder-led story. It could be a sale. You could be having a promo or something. So it would be kind of working out what that is first. And then we'd dive into like, who are you trying to reach? Which is your audience? What kind of content creators do they like? Who do they think is aligned with their brand? And this can be not in their category. I really promote kind of looking outside.
Right.
This is like the typical, because, you know, you could be a beauty brand, but your primary consumer is actually a mum. So you could reach them somewhere that's not someone that's a beauty creator. It could be someone that's like a lifestyle, someone who talks about motherhood a lot, family, and that could have really nice cut through, because it could be kind of like another way around to find your audience. So we kind of do a deep dive in that. We'll do a big brain dump, and then I'll take it all away and kind of just dive in, as in literally scroll
I was
social media.
So as you managing this process, you obviously have a very good understanding of the main names that you would see popping up all of the time.
Yeah.
Like you'd have you'd know who's who. Is it a matter of like just scrolling through and trying to find?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, because it's not like a Google search, right?
No, and I feel like people potentially may be trying, like Googling like best fashion influencer in Australia or something, and you're not going to find it that way.
No.
It's years of working with these influencers. Like I obviously have my kind of like go-to people that I know are perfect for long-term relationships. They convert. They're really passionate. They create great content. But sometimes it's something really niche. And so you honestly need to just get stuck in there, search through, look at content, see who's performing. Nothing makes me more excited than finding someone that's just starting out and you see the potential.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been so many people like that. I'm like, let's work with them.
Yeah.
Trust me. I just feel like it's going to
They're going to blow up.
yeah. And then they do, and then you've been with them from the beginning.
That really, really cares about them.
Yeah.
There's some influencers that I watch religiously, and if they were talking about a product,
you wouldn't think twice. You're like, boom,
great.
2 seconds later, I've purchased it.
Yeah. And you talk about there being a lot more value in a long-term relationship versus a once-off. So how would the brand establish that relationship?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. So there's kind of
good questions today. One after the other.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely killing it.
Thank you.
So I would say there's kind of two parts to that. One is typically you're going to be going through an agent, you know, like even the smallest content creators, influencers have agents these days. Or if you're going through them directly, everyone knows their worth, which is amazing. So you can either come to them and say, hey, we want a longer term partnership. And that could be like X posts, or it could be, you know, a time length. We want to work with you for 6 months. This is what we'd love it to look like. You can even say we want to do, you know, a few stories, a reel, a post over this thing, like timeline. We'll see how it goes. And afterwards we would love to extend. So it's kind of like beneficial for both. It makes them want to do something really great for it to perform well, because they know more work's coming. Something else that I really love suggesting to brands, especially if you don't have a really huge budget, is find who you'd love to work with, but then what other ways can you elevate their brand as well? Do you have a blog that they could write on if you know they like writing? Do you have a podcast that they could be a guest on? Can they contribute something back, which is also then fostering their creativity as well. Like it doesn't just have to be, here's the product, here's the post, here's the cash. Like think of different ways that if someone was coming into your office, how can you kind of build that friendship with them? You know, do you bring them to a trip? Do you bring them into the office? Do you show them how the products are made as well? Like think of different ways that you can kind of
engage them, bring them into the story a little bit.
And then as well, making sure that your social media is engaging with theirs. Comment on their posts, DM them, chat to them. They love that as well. Like start it before you've even engaged to work with them.
There are so many brands that do that now. Some of them are a little bit too far. Like have you seen Ryanair or whatever it is?
Oh, the plane?
Yes. Have you seen their comments? When people
I've only
are
seen
talking,
certain ones that go viral.
Yeah, the one like they will write on. Someone will be complaining about Ryanair, and then Ryanair will write back saying, "Cry me a river." And I'm like, "Are you
don't
okay?"
go that far.
Yeah,
I mean, unless you're Ryanair, because I think they're doing
that's
well.
like their thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see a lot of brands engaging with, especially on TikTok, and I think it's a bit of fun. I like it.
Yeah, have a bit of fun. Absolutely.
And do you think that influencer marketing works best when it is more brand aligned versus bigger?
It depends who you're working with, because I think sometimes...
Like if you can get Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, or even like Martha here in Australia. Like everyone knows, everyone in the industry talks about like she sells products.
Wow.
And so it's like,
cool.
You know, like she's going to sell, like her audience converts.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, she's basically Kim Kardashian of.
That's amazing. Because I know, like, speaking like for High Smile, for example, they work with Kylie and they work with Kim a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would be so expensive, but surely, and that's been an ongoing thing, right? That's not just been a once-off thing. That's been for years now. They've been working with the Kardashians. And when I think of who's the biggest name that you could get, I'm going straight to Kimmy, because
totally,
if she's talking about something, I'm thinking, number one, good on you for investing. And number two, like she's very influential. So yeah, I do think that a lot of brands, like one of my friends works at a very well-known fashion brand, and she talks to me a lot about even when they have bigger names reach out to them, they will more go for someone who's a micro influencer over someone who's bigger, because the number one most important thing to them is the brand integrity.
Yeah, it totally depends. Every business is so different.
Yeah.
And then it could be, you know, if she's working with the smaller micro influencers, they're probably getting a lot more content out of them as well, because they're so pumped to get the delivery, and they're going to be so excited to share. And then when they do get really big, they'll remember that you gifted them and you wanted to work with them then, and it comes back.
I haven't really delved too much into the world of influencer marketing, because I feel like we run an agency, and with not wanting to offer every single service, influencer marketing was perhaps an industry that I didn't know too much about. So we never have offered that as a service. Definitely a little bit of it when I was working in a PR agency, but I understand that there's so much that goes into it. Like it's like a whole thing. It's a whole service offering on its own.
It is. And it really did start, you're right, like in PR. I was interning at AMPR. That was like the original of like bringing people into the showroom and gifting them products.
Yeah.
And they would just be people that had a following, but it was before kind of like influencers were a real job.
So speaking about influencers and contracts, is that something that you implement?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Learn from my early on mistakes.
You say, I think they're really nice. I think they're going to do it. They said they would.
Yeah. And even for freelancers as well, it's the same kind of setup, like the importance of having contracts. Like no matter how much that person seems to be your friend or of course they're going to deliver.
Yeah.
And I've had moments like this throughout my career, working with big and small influencers, talent, even my own freelance work. Having a contract is so important because things can get miscommunicated at certain times, or other people in the business may think that we're getting X, Y, Z. So having something that you can just come back to is really important, and it protects both parties. It protects them as well.
Especially if there's so many emails going back and forth, just to have one document that is just the final say
you got
makes
the Bible.
it so much easier, right? Yeah. Have you ever been in a scenario, you said, when you were younger, where you didn't have a contract and it didn't come to fruition?
Yeah.
Whoopsies.
Yes, both times. I've had, for influencers, I've had one, and that was quite a big name. And I look back and I think it was because we were really building that relationship, and we really thought, okay, they're totally on board. We were doing a lot of different things. And I think that's where it got kind of confusing, because we didn't have it like set in stone of X post, X blog, podcast, rada. And we discussed it all, but then we were talking with the talent, then we would talk with the agent, and then that was where the wires were getting crossed. Right. And I would always take that as a learning, because it totally threw me in the deep end of, I need to go and fix this up to make sure, one, the talent isn't upset with us at all, because we don't want to lose that relationship. No. But then I also have you know, people within the business that are looking at me to deliver this. And so you're kind of on clean up duty. And so having a contract at the beginning would have really just made it much easier because you can just refer back to that when things don't get delivered in the right way.
I think we were saying before how there's a lot of people that are now doing this for their full-time jobs, which is so amazing because, and people, I think people have this opinion that influencers charge way too much. And there's even accounts designated to people talking about influencers' rates and things. However, I think it's so amazing that these people know their value.
So amazing.
Because they're promoting your brand in a way that it's authentic and it's speaking to their audience, and there's no better way to, if you think about it, there's no better way to be promoting your brand. So they understand their value, which is why they charge so much, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's still this misconception that a lot of content creators or influencers will want to do certain things in exchange for free product, and they're not really understanding the value that the influencers are bringing.
And people see influencers as their online friends and family. And so I think people forget about that, and that is really powerful. And so definitely like you should be charging them for what it's worth. Like this is their full-time job. Like they're not going to an office as well. They're taking the time at home to film, to use the product. Well, they should be.
That's very ethical. And I know a lot of influencers talk about brands reaching out to them saying, can you record this video and say that this product cured your acne? And they're like, but it hasn't. It's a lie.
Yeah. And it's so difficult. And that is one of the things I have to do as well, being freelance, is like manage brands' expectations. And when companies do come to me and say that, it's working out the right way of explaining it to them so they can see it from that perspective as well. Because, there's definitely people out there that are going to be so stoked to get your product for free and use it. It's probably not going to be someone that's got like 1 million followers. But if you find those content creators at the beginning, or if they've reached out to you because they're trying to build their portfolio, similar if you're like a model starting out, you need to do shoots because you need to get content to kind of share. And then something else that's really important is if you want to kind of just start DMing people and start reaching out and trying to get your product out there, the first thing I always say is have a look at your socials first. The first thing they're going to do, they're going to jump on your account and go, does it look cool? Is this my aesthetic? Would I want my content featured here? If your content is like killing it, like ticking all the boxes, it looks amazing, it's like great examples of what the content is that you're looking for. It's almost like the briefing. It's like that's the creative direction of, if I send you this cleanser, I would love a piece of content that one is unique to you and your audience, but then also like suits us and it has that kind of overlay. And so if you're starting out and your page is a bit like, you haven't kind of invested in your own content, I would say wait a few months, get your socials up and running, make it engaging. And so they're more likely to want to just take the product and create for you because they want to be involved in that as well.
So if you're a small brand owner, how would you actually go about engaging influencers? Would it be a matter of looking for them? Obviously, someone can engage you to look after that process for them. But if they were to be looking for influencers, then I guess reaching out over email, trying to find their agents, would that be the best way?
Just DM them.
DM, right.
Yeah. Well, check their profile first. Yeah. Go straight in. But don't DM them if in their bio is an email address.
Yeah.
Because nothing irks them more than when it's clearly just like email here and you're DMing, because they're just going to have to respond saying, can you please just email?
Just put it in an email or not even see it. I don't know why, but I always just think that when you send someone a DM, it's just lost. Like they're never going to check it.
And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. I think if you find, especially if you're starting out and then you want to work with smaller creators, they're still managing their own DMs. They're still going to be excited to kind of see that pop up. So I would try and move it to email at some point. And then it depends. Like if it is for contra, then it's definitely a bit more flexible. Like it's, what's your postal address? We'll just send out the product. And then once they've got the product, then you follow up and say, hey, how are you going? Do you have any questions about it?
Would you even think about implementing a contract if it was contra, or would you just say, we're going to send you a product, we hope you like it, create content if you feel like creating content? Because or would you even in the instance of contra, ask for them to sign a contract?
I wouldn't for contra. I think you're really just trying to build a relationship.
Yep.
And I think just by chatting with them, and if they love it, they'll want to share it. I think a contract's probably a bit too intense. I mean, some people might disagree, but I think building that relationship's the most important part if you don't have the funds.
And I do have another question about the content. Is there a separate kind of fee involved if the brand or the client is looking to use the content for ads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
That's a really good question as well, and so important. I think this is a question that's coming up more because people aren't realizing you do have to pay if you want digital usage. In terms of like UGC, a lot of people, when you're kind of negotiating that rate, will be able to put it into the cost. And then it's hard because there's not like an industry standard. I think from my research and who I've worked with, I would say it's like 30% per month that based on like if you paid $100, it'd be 30% of that for each month that you want it to run. But it is up to the content creator as well to kind of keep an eye, because I feel like some businesses, especially if they outsource to an agency, things can get lost along the way. And that's exactly when having a contract is really important because it protects the creator. And so they're like, well, you actually only paid for 2 months of usage and I can see the ad's still running. It's definitely a kind of a tricky grey area.
And if a brand was to find content of an influencer wearing their product who didn't tag them in that content, they were to take that and then use it on their ad without even having a conversation with that influencer, or it wasn't even a paid deal, because I know this happens all the time.
Yes, it does.
That is very bad, right?
It is really, really bad.
Yeah.
That's almost the worst thing you could do, because if they're already wearing your stuff, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you then go and take their content and run it in an ad without them knowing, safe to say they're probably never going to wear your stuff again.
That happens, right?
It does happen.
So what can an influencer do in that situation? Just contact the brand and ask?
What they would do would be find a contact in the brand. If you can get an email address, that's great, or just message them. And then typically the brand would get an invoice for usage. So if they can see that's running, because everyone can see everyone's ads in the back end of Meta.
Yeah. How good is that?
Really good.
Yeah.
I love spying what other people are doing.
What you doing?
But yeah, you can then go back and say, well, I can see this has been running for 6 months in, the UK, Australia, America. Here's the invoice for my usage. And that's something that agents will do, especially on their behalf.
Yeah, it's
just
such
research.
And it's such an art, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it can be a long process. It's kind of like dating, you got to kiss a lot of frogs in influencers.
Totally.
Like you have to send out a lot of DMs, a lot of emails.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do an event or you want content creation, you're probably going to email like 50 people and then you'll get your final 10. Because
okay, right. So you don't hear back from people.
Sometimes you won't hear back, and then also goes into, and this could be something good to talk about as well, is if you're wanting to work with like bigger people, it then goes into negotiation. So if you want to have an influencer manager in your business, they need to be a good negotiator, because you basically start the discussion of, okay, we want to do X, Y, Z, and then it's negotiating, similar to like buying a house. So what do I get and how many posts can I get? And the figure that you start with is just basically a starting point.
Okay.
As you guys both kind of work out where you want to land. And that's not with every influencer. Some is just like, yep, this is for one post. But when you talk about like packaging content up and then, stories or reels or X, Y, Z, often it can be, turn into a bit of a negotiation between both parties.
It's very interesting.
And you also pay super now for a lot of influencers as well, and like agency fee and things like that. Yeah, which is amazing for the creators.
Yeah,
and
I'm so big on super.
Same.
Yeah, like you got to pay
on
super.
Yeah, it's so important.
When people are getting around not paying their super, I don't know why, but I've always thought about super, and I think it's really good that you now have to pay freelancers super.
Knowing your worth as well is really important, because I think you can have your hourly rate, and I see a lot of discussions on LinkedIn about this as well of well, it should just be worked out based on like what your last full-time salary was. And it's like, yes, it can, but at the same time, you're now having to take sick leave out, super out, tax. And so a lot of people come to you and they go, oh, what's your hourly rate? And you say, and sometimes people, they undercharge themselves, they overcharge. It's hard to find a spot. And once I heard this really great piece of advice is if you're a freelancer, you should feel slightly uncomfortable for the amount that you're asking. And that means you're in the right spot.
Okay.
Because if you feel really comfortable when someone asks and you just go, yeah, this is my hourly rate, you're probably undercharging yourself.
Yeah, so true. If you feel really comfortable saying, I'm just 30 an hour.
Yeah.
Or when you're out there shooting content for them or doing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree. I don't think as an employee somewhere that your rate would be the same as if you are freelancing because there's so much more that is involved.
So much more, even just like things that you need or subscriptions or everything you need to run a business has to come into those costs. Yeah. Similar to if you are a full-blown agency.
Yeah.
Because, agency rates will be a little bit higher if they're, using a freelancer or you're doing the same work that an agency would. You should still be pricing yourself correctly.
I think so too. This is why it's important as a creative and as a freelancer to have a network of people because how do you know? Like you just feel like you're making it up unless you can talk to people and say, hey, this is how much I'm going to charge for this or hey, what's your hourly rate? And then you can kind of compare and go, okay, cool. I think I'm comfortable with what I'm charging because it's kind of the same as what you guys are doing and we're doing a similar thing. Because otherwise, how do you know?
This was me. This was me at the beginning when I first started going freelance. I was just, hi, sweetie. I know. So grown up. When I first started going freelance, this was me. I was severely undercharging and I was really comfortable with it. And so I thought it was really good. And then I went and caught up with one of the old directors in an agency I used to work at and we were just kind of chatting and he was like, okay, what's your hourly rate? And he was like, whoa. He was like, someone else that is maybe 5 years junior than you is charging like double of what you're charging and we're working with them as well. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like
pump it up.
Pump it up.
Yeah.
And so I think you need to be talking to people and don't be scared to change your rates or chat to the business first about what they need. Because if you're creating something that's really valuable to a business, like if I'm going in and making a social strategy, that's something that they can then go and take and have those guidelines for their internal team. The content that they're going to be producing every week is going to come back to that, the tone of voice, their content pillars. And
I think when you're working with small businesses, you can kind of feel a bit of a guilt about charging, but at the same time, you are offering so much value and it's not even just the time spent, it's all of your years of expertise that you are giving and all of your creativity, which is so valuable to any business. So we definitely should be charging what we're worth.
Yes. And if you're working with a small business and they don't have a huge budget, work with them to find a way that's kind of beneficial. Like be like, okay, well, you want to do X, Y, Z. That's a really big project and that is going to take a lot of hours. What is the most important thing that I can help you with? Or is it I do the strategy and then you take it and run? Or I just do a month worth of content for you so you can understand how it works. And then I could work project basis. Like maybe it's just a few videos here and there to help you or a few posts because sometimes they just need those like templates to get going as well.
Yeah, working out and reducing the scope to be more powerful rather than just reducing your hours to reducing your
Yeah, because as a freelancer, even if you really want to work with the brand and they've gone, okay, well, we need to cut these hours in half. It's like, well, then you're not going to want to do the job half. You still, because it's got your name on it and that's your brand and your business and what you put out. So you're probably going to do the hours anyway. And so that's that hard thing of being a freelancer. It's like, oh, well, you only want to charge me 5 hours for it. Well, I'm still going to do 10 because I want this to be perfect. So I'm not just going to hand over something that's half cooked. And so that's something that's really hard to kind of find the balance.
I think so. And I think we can justify it if we think it's going to be good for the portfolio as well.
Yes, definitely. So I think you can, especially starting out.
Yeah.
I'm not traditionally a graphic designer and I don't do branding, but I have had some experience. And I've had some friends come to me say, hey, I would love some help with my branding. And I go, cool, no worries. And I've done it for them and done their logo and their colours and their fonts. I'm not someone that traditionally would offer this service, but it's something that I was really excited to kind of go in, and I loved the process and I did it for them for free. And now that's basically their whole brand. Off they go.
And now you have that on your portfolio.
Yeah.
And it was a great learning experience for
really
you.
fun. Yeah.
What has that process been like when a brand has come to you to create very authentic UGC style content?
I love doing UGC content. It's something that I've kind of just fallen into. Often in the businesses I was in, we didn't have a lot of budgets and I would just end up kind of jumping in front of the camera. So it's something that I kind of do as like a passion project on the side. And so I think my UGC style definitely leans to the more creative side. I'm less like hook, sell. I'm more the lifestyle or like how do you use it? Like I've worked in beauty for a long time now. And so I have that kind of more, this is how the product works. These are the great ingredients. This is your brand ethos, which I think is really important as well, because I think a lot of creators are really jumping into the sell, which is really important, but don't forget to be creative and be you. Yeah. And I think I've been lucky with the people I work with. They still appreciate that. And if we have to do something that's really sales focused, we definitely can. And I just work collaboratively with them about what they want that hook to be. But not every single video that I create is going to be like really loud, because I think that's not me as a person. I'm more like friendly and fun and like bubbly, and that's what my content looks like. And you still see that perform really well, especially on Instagram, I 100%. Think. Or, you know, TikTok, you have to be on those trends and things, but how can I do it in a way that's me? Maybe it's jumping on the trend and using the audio, but the footage isn't as intense. I'm not going to do the dance or something like that, but I'll have it, and then maybe the text overlay plays into that in a clever way. Yeah. And developing that, like, you have a specific style of your content, which means that whenever anyone is reaching out to you, they're reaching out to you for the content that you want to create. Yeah. And I do a lot of outreach as well for content creation for brands that I really love. And sometimes I'll even do contra work and things like that for just organic resharing. And that's when they can see, like, I'll send over my portfolio, they can see all the different content. And so they kind of know what they're going to get on the other side. Like, it's not super trends based. It's more, here's my lifestyle, here's my values, here's how I perform in front of the camera and how I can show off your product. Well, I've been influenced the most from ongoing partnerships now that I think about it. And I've seen influencers using the same product. The Shark Flex hairstyle, which is the cheaper version of the Dyson Airwrap, I was very influenced into buying that because two of my favorite influencers, who are twins, they use it all the time and they went on a brand trip, and I bought it. It was $500 and I bought it. I thought, great, because they like it. So, and I trust them. I know that they wouldn't be talking about a product if they didn't believe it. So I do think that's when I'm most influenced, is when it's a longer, it's not just a once-off thing, but when they're constantly using it and they're talking about it, and then maybe they're doing a get ready with me and they're using the product, and I'm just seeing that product over and over and over, and then it's in the cart. Yeah, and I bought it's so good. Even in like a nice lifestyle shot, or you just see it in the background of one of their videos, and you go, oh, they're authentically using that. So back to content creation, how do you think you developed that style? Trial and learn. Do lots of content, film a lot, be that friend that's always recording, try out different styles, try out different equipment. Do you like film? Do you want to just shoot everything on disposable camera? Do you just want to shoot on your iPhone? Test out different lighting, and then look at what other people are doing in the whole world around you as well. It's like magazines, online, social media, websites. My grandma is an artist, and she always talked to me from when I was young. I'd be like, oh, I really like this. And she'd go, okay, what do you like about it? And like, where does your eye go on it? Is it someone's outfit? Like, what do you actually like about it? Because your eye goes, yeah, that's cool. And then you can go, oh, well, actually I like that she has like these earrings and it matches the top, and she's done socks to match. And then you can start like building that all together of when you want to do content for yourself. Like, how do you want to shoot? And if you create it and you feel stuck and it feels like it doesn't flow, then it's probably not your style either, because I think nothing performs better than authentic content. Like, you know, when someone is creating because it's how they see the world, no matter, it doesn't matter if someone else is already doing it in that space. Like, someone's probably doing your style somewhere else, but you still have something to offer, I think.
The type of content that I like to watch, like, I'll sit there and watch a 10-minute long video of someone just talking about a first date. Like, I eat that content
same.
up. And I would love
Tell me every
to be
detail.
like, I will watch the whole 10 minutes of it and I just love it. And what have they even said in the last 10 minutes? Probably nothing.
Yeah.
But I just like that we're just chatting, and that's the kind of content that I love. If someone's done I watched a 26-part series the other day of someone just talking. Like,
that one that went viral on that girl and her like ex-husband or something.
Oh,
did you see that
who did I marry? Yes. That is my cup of tea. Like, I
like
love
no one
that.
slept for 24 hours just watching all of that content.
If you've got 26 parts, great. I'll be watching it. Like, where's the playlist? I could have watched a movie in that time, but I'm just sitting here watching your TikToks. That's the content that I love to consume. So that leads me to believe that's the kind of content I want to create. But is that me? I don't know. Can I put my phone up and talk? Because every time I've tried to do that, it's just not really like...
It does take practice, that kind of stuff. Definitely, like speaking to the camera. And it's a lot of like bloopers. Like, I love when people share all like the takes it got to take
really?
that.
I haven't seen that. So is it taking other people a lot of... Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
I will
it takes
film myself
a long
and be
time.
like, no, you didn't nail it on the first go. No, it's not happening. Is there anything else or any kind of advice that you would want to give someone starting out in the creative industry looking to freelance? Anything come to mind?
When I went straight into freelancing, I'd been overseas, like traveling for 3 months, and I came back and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I didn't have any clients lined up. I would probably say maybe don't do that unless you're like really going to back yourself. I definitely made it harder for myself. Yeah. Transition, I think that's really nice. I think I wish I'd done that a little bit more. The slow transition I think is really nice. Know that it's basically a never-ending interview as well. Like, it feels like I'm interviewing every week. So take the time to just really go inward, work out what you want to offer, how you want to even communicate that, and then know your worth. And then even when you're freelancing, like, still have those mentors that you would if you were in a business. And often it's just seeing someone that's doing something cool, you can reach out to them and just get them to bounce ideas with you, help kind of lead you in what your offering is and how you want to share that. And then network. I think networking is so important because sometimes freelancing can be really isolating. Yeah. And so when you, especially if you work at home or you just have a little office somewhere, get up, get out, go talk to other people. There's so many of us.
It's so funny. People always talk about when you leave working for a company, people always say, oh, how nice to not have a boss. And it's kind of like, well, you kind of feel like you've got like 20 different bosses now.
You have 100 different bosses. Every one of your clients is typically your boss.
I know. It's like, I kind of like have many bosses now.
And you can't cry about it like you could have boss.
And you definitely get addicted to work, but that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah. Anyone that says like flexibility, oh, I'm going freelance for flexibility. It's like, no, like I think about work 24/7. Like I'm lying in bed, thinking about my clients, thinking about ideas. What am I going to do tomorrow? Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
You work on the weekend. Yeah. Like, you could go and work from Bali if you wanted, but you still be working.
You just be in Bali. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been fun.
If you've made it this far, thank you so, so much for listening. Make sure to hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for upcoming episodes. We have some very exciting guests coming on very, very soon. Thanks.